on this week's FAS TV.
So we can't farm without the agri-tourism, and agri-tourism can't run without the farm, and that for us is really, that's the whole story. We can't do one without the other. So we have to, as farmers, work out, at the end of the day, the farming and our animals come first, but at the same time, we want to be able to operate and provide a fantastic service to everybody coming to the farm, so we have to make it work. So for us, we fit everything around our farm and our calendar and our busy seasons, and that's why you sometimes have to employ people and spend extra money on things like that. But it now means that we know we're being successful, but we're operating a really good business and everyone's happy.
Coming up on this week's FAS TV, we're at Lennox of Lomond to hear how Bobby, Anne, Kay and Dougie have introduced luxury accommodation, farm tours and experiences on their 5,000-acre Tenant Hill farm, situated on the western side of Loch Lomond near Luss. Since Kay's grandfather started farm tours back in the 1970s, farm tours and experiences have grown massively, with the family now welcoming around 2,000 visitors every year from all over the world.
My name is Kay Wilson and I farm here with my parents Bobby and Anne Lennox and my husband Dougie. You're here in Loch Lomond on our farm called Shantron and Shimore Farm. We have a 5,000-acre Tenant Hill farm where we've got 1,100 blackie sheep and about 25 kind of suckler cows, mainly line breed. And we also have diversified into tourism, welcoming people to our farm in a various different ways between accommodation and tours. So our diversification journey started back in about the 1970s, where my grandfather began running the odd tour here and there, and that was mainly for our self-catering guests. That again started around the same time when a cottage became available due to a shepherd no longer working with us and not being able to afford a new shepherd. We had an empty house, so at that time was when we started doing self-catering that my grandmother started to run. And the tours back then would have just been welcoming guests and walking them around the farm and showing them all the landscape. My grandpa loved to talk about the farm and everything that was on it. We also did at that time what you'd call them food vloggers, but back then it was food journalists. Busload of folk would come in from the supermarkets maybe to come and see where your food is from. And again, we had vet students quite regularly. I remember lots of vet students would always kind of come out in the busload and they'd walk around the fields and talk about the land and the landscape. Looking at the kind of numbers that visit the farm for the tours, it has varied over the years. I mean, really in the last 5 years is when we've been kind of putting more of a commercialised kind of spin on it. So we can track the numbers and we know how many. But back in my grandfather's day, it was probably quite hard to know. You're probably looking at a time you'd have a bus load of folk in here and there, maybe a couple times a year. You maybe had 60 maybe folk on a tour for that year, let's say. So now we're looking at nearly 2,000 people on tours a year. That's where we're sitting this year up till October now, is we're probably about 2,000 people have been on the farm visiting us on one tour or another. Okay, so we do a variation of tours. So let's just say you came and joined us for one of our day in the life of the farmers. So you're going to arrive at Mum and Dad's farm, which is at Shantron. You're going to sit round the table, you're going to get a big welcome, maybe even a hug off my mum. We'll get some tea and coffee, and Mum is an amazing baker, so she'll have our homemade shortbread and lovely tasty treats just to sweeten you up before you start. We'll tell them briefly what we're going to do for the day, but we also talk about our history. So we've been here since the 1750s, which is really unique. So I'm now the 11th generation to farm. So to be able to share that kind of unique story, but also about that story about welcoming people to the farm and letting them share a little bit of our experience. So then we would then go and do the job for the day. So if it was at lambing time, we'd be out in the lambing shed doing some lambing work. We might be out fixing a dry stone dike because it's been brought down by the deer, or we might fix a stab that's been broken. So we let folk take part in as much as they want to, but again, we're assessing the safety of that. Are they able to, walk up a hill? So generally we don't do a lot of our hill gathers with people, but we are able to give them a really in-depth a day's feel, and really the most important thing is about spending time with the farmers and getting that feel. So that's one aspect of tours, but we do bus tours as well, which is we have an hour and a half with a group and we try and share the entire year kind of calendar, all the kind of funny stories and the things that have happened over the years and how traditionally things have been done and how things have changed, or actually how things haven't changed and we're still doing very similar things on the farm that our ancestors have done. We are very lucky and blessed that we actually are a very close family. We work with each other every day, which does involve, there is sometimes the odd argument, or somebody's left the gate open that thought it was shut, or the usual bit of banter, and all that kind of feeds through, but it's all meant in good. in good faith. But yeah, so we like that feel to come across. So for our tours, generally you've always got at least a member of the family there, or sometimes all of us. And there's usually a bit of banter between us. Somebody's interrupted somebody and there's a bit of joking back and forth as it kind of goes. So you're part of the family when you come for the day. When you're here with us, you become part of it. Yeah, so there was a time when my husband and I had been married. I wanted to work here from the age of 18, but I wanted to work on the farm, and at that time there wasn't the money in the farm to be able to pay me a wage. So for my husband and I to live together, we needed a mortgage because there was no houses available on the farm. So we had to find a way to make money, so we had to go and work off the farm. So I did social care for like 10-15 years, but always wanting to come back to the farm. So it was trying to find a way to get back. I first of all started a cleaning company, so I was able to come back to the farm once the cottage was available. I started working on the farm. Started the cleaning company, it built up enough that I no longer had to work in the cleaning and I could work on the farm. Had some children in that time as well, so it was just about kind of juggling that. But my husband is still working as a boat builder full time. So when it got to about 2015, we talked about how can we bring us both back to the farm full time. There still isn't enough money in the farm to pay us, but we can still get to live here on the farm and work with mum and dad. So being a boat builder, my husband's very capable at building things, and he'll probably watch this with joy that I'm speaking very kindly of him. But he's very, very good at what he does. So he has designed and manufactured our lodges from scratch. We have brought a gas man in and an electrician in just to make sure we don't electrocute anybody or kill anyone, but we have now got a really successful business. Now we have 5 lodges, and they're adults only, kind of luxury, high end, and they've hot tubs out on the deck. So it's really nice that we can welcome people to the farm who just enjoy the peace and quiet in that kind of space. For that to work, that's been the sole reason, is to try and let us be here and farm without taking money out of the farm. So that's subsidising us to live and work here, which it's now doing, which is great. The success speaks for itself, that we've now been able to sustain ourselves, but we actually are now employing people within the business. So we have a full-time manager that's been for the last 4 years. It's really difficult as a farmer to pay somebody else to come and do the job that I can do, because I know I can do it and I can do it really well. The problem is I just don't have the time, because it's taking me away from the farm, and I'm needing to learn from Dad more and take on all the aspects of the farm as well as my husband. So we made the decision that we needed that extra person, which is amazing because we don't really value our time as farmers. So now being able to have that, yes, there's money coming out of the business, but I wouldn't be able to farm and we couldn't continue to do what we're doing if we didn't have somebody in there looking after everything. So our guests are one of the most important thing. We want to make sure that customer services is the best thing. You're meted and greeted when you arrive and when you leave. There's somebody generally around or on site or on the farm, so there's always somebody here and present if you need anything, but generally they don't, but if they were, we're here. And if something gets broken, my husband is there to fix it, so it's nice that we've kind of got that. And they're a big part and extension of the family as well, the people that work there. We've got 4 part-time cleaners, we've got a part-time bookkeeper, they're self-employed. And then we obviously work and collaborate with a lot of local businesses as well, so we're tying in with a local farm shop, so we sell their products, as in we've created packages like steak night or a breakfast pack or a protein pack, so they've created those for us that fits our business. We work with the local hotel, which is actually Luss Estates, Loch Lomond Arms Hotel, so we send our people up there for something to eat. Good thing is it's really good food and it's a great atmosphere, so that works really well. So yeah, it's about bringing everything together and sharing what's really good locally. Scottish agri-tourism is hugely valuable for us, and we were actually one of the first kind of people involved in it when it started. It actually started before that. We were the Scottish Enterprise Agri-Tourism Monitor Farmers from 2019 to 2022. Really just, we had all these ideas, but it really just helped us shape it and kind of pull it together, and allowing us each to kind of have that space. And from that, we had this really great network of people who were willing to share their do's and don'ts and problems that they've had and how much they paid for something. And it was amazing to have this group of people that you could come back and forth with. During COVID, the sector really pulled together. It wasn't actually formalised as a sector till after COVID, and that was actually from the time that we all spent together just supporting each other through that really difficult time. A lot of businesses shut. We had to like refund thousands and thousands of pounds that we were hoping could get us through the winter without any support from government. So then suddenly we created a sector, and then we had that voice in government that everyone was coming together and saying, well, these are the problems I'm having, and having that voice, that huge voice that pushed through, and then we were able to help change things within the government and have that kind of that space and that voice. And now we've got a huge sector. There's more and more people out there doing it. There's a lot of people who are doing it maybe aren't part of the official sector, but it's that same kind of ethos that we're trying to earn a living that's still farming, but we're still trying to bring people to the farm, but also it's that sharing aspect. It's that like-minded people trying to push, trying to drive forward, trying to make it a better place and, you know, to be. I've really learnt a lot about myself since starting this kind of journey. I've always been a good talker, which you can see today. I quite enjoy talking, but I didn't at that time know my place on the farm. I was coming through, I'm my father's daughter and I love being on the farm, but I didn't really know where I sat within that. And having the agri-tourism, it suddenly developed from my mum had a cottage, I had a cottage, and then we suddenly developed tours, and then we had new accommodation. So it just naturally all started to kind of come under my belt, and then realising that actually together, so I could actually manage those and understand the system and the sector and all that kind of pulled together. So I started to value myself a lot more and actually appreciate what I brought to the table, not just being under the umbrella of the farm, you know, so that was quite really interesting from that. Still got a lot to learn on the farm, but I definitely feel more confident as we go along. I don't know, it's grown organically for us. We never went too big too soon, so I think my fear was that we suddenly do this and then we can't, you know. So the first year we only had maybe a couple hundred people on the farm for, say, our lambing experience. Now we have over 600 people to the farm, which is pretty much maxed out. So by that, I'm quite glad we've done it that way. We've slowly just grown and worked out what works and is it a good experience for people. So we've kind of learnt as we've kind of gone along. Advice-wise, I would say you need to know your market. Who are you selling to? The market has changed a lot in the kind of 5 years, and I've kind of learnt that looking at statistics and speaking to like Visit Scotland and looking at things, and we've noticed a huge kind of drop in a sense of or the way people are booking is very different now. It's very last minute. So whereas when we opened, we were nearly 100% occupied for our first 2 lodges. We've then grown a third one, then a fourth, then a fifth. So that we're now at our kind of, not max capacity, we could put a couple more on, but at the moment we're sitting, do we want to invest into another 2 at the moment when the market's been quite unstable? There's a lot more people offering a similar thing now. So again, before you go into it, know your market and what's there. Tour-wise, I would just tell everybody to get into it. Absolutely something you should get into. There's something really, if you like people and you like talking to people, it's a fantastic thing to do. The feedback we get from the general public is amazing. Not just, they love the family background for us. We talk a lot about our family and we kind of come together, and a lot of people say it's just lovely to see that, which you think's nothing, but actually it's quite important. But sharing the aspects of your farm with people is really simple. There doesn't have to be a huge amount of infrastructure. So actually cost-wise, it doesn't have to be too expensive to set up to do it. So I definitely think that's something that everyone should do if they were willing to have the public on their farm.
Right, I'm Bobby Lennox here at Sheemore and Shantron Farms on the west side of Loch Lomond. We're the first of the hill farms. As you move up the west side of Loch Lomond, we're the first of the high hills, going up to about 2,250 feet. It's a 5,000 acre farm, most of it hill. We've got about 150 acres of in-by reasonably good fields round about the bottom of the farm. We're running a stock of 1,100 black ewes, and we've got about 25 ling sucker cows. Family's been renting the farm since 1750, so I'm the 10th generation on the farm, and the lease is now handed over to my daughter Kay, so she's the 11th generation on the lease. I think the biggest challenge in a hill farm is the weather. I mean, all farms' weather's important. Where it gives us the biggest problem, if they're wanting to gather the sheep in, whether it's shearing or lambing or a veterinary treatment that they need to get, it's a five days it takes us to gather the sheep off the hill. We need 5 good days. Now, in this weather, as you can see behind you here, we get quite a lot of mist and rain and low cloud. So there are a lot of days we would like to go out and we physically can't, because we just can't find the sheep. So any job that we do in the farm takes about 2 weeks to do, because there's that many days we lose because we can't get working with the sheep. So that probably creates the biggest challenge. And the next biggest challenge is getting labour. I mean, we're lucky at the moment. I'm still fitting off my daughter and Dougie, so 3 of us there. We've got a regular contract shepherd that's been coming for 35 years that we can get in to help gather. But he's virtually the same age as me, so in a number of years' time he's not going to be fit enough to go to the hill as well. And getting new blood with the ability and their dog's ability to work hills is getting very, very difficult. A lot of dogs will work a field, take them out into an open hill and they get lost because they've not got a fence to run round and follow. So it's hard getting people with the right skills, the right dogs to come and help. The technology we've brought in is just trying to make life easier as we can. I mean, I've always worked with a two-wheel motorbike on the hill for gathering, so I'm covering the ground that 2 or 3 people used to cover when they were walking. So that reduces the number of people that we needed out on the hill and can cover ground much faster. My grandson's now starting to learn to ride a bike too, so he can come out with me and he's learning the routes on the hill, where to go, where to find the sheep out on the hill, so that he can hopefully take over from me in a year or two's time. My daughter's got a drone that she can use, which is useful at gathering, to go and look in areas, check if there's any sheep in an area. It might save us a mile walk if there's no sheep up in that particular spot. So it's useful for that, but you're limited when you can't fly it if it's raining, you can't fly it if the wind's above about 25 miles an hour, so there are a lot of days you can't use it. But it's still a very useful tool. It's very useful for going, if you've got a cow missing at calving time from that, to go and find it out in the hill rather than have to go and quad bike. Might take you an hour, hour and a half to ride round the park that they're in to find it. Where with drone you can get it very quickly. It's also very handy just for checking stock in the fields, that you don't need to run around all the fields with a bike. The drone can fly over quickly, doesn't disturb them, and you can see exactly what's there. Everything's all right, and that. So in that respect, that can save a lot of time. We've got lambing cameras in all the lambing sheds, which again is a big benefit. It means, you know, during the day there's nearly somebody in the shed all the time working, but once you get after in the evening, it allows for having a camera there. If you're out in the shed and you see a sheep getting near lambing, you can set the camera on it. I can go back into the office, catch up with some paperwork, or go and sow some fertiliser, do something else. I keep watching my phone, and if I need to go and assist it, it's only like either 10 minutes, 5 minutes back to the shed and deal with the problem. Or once it's lambed, we go and sort it, lambs into the pen, and that's the way it works. So yeah, they are a big boon. They're not the be end all, because there's some odd corners in the shed the camera doesn't, pans around and there are posts in the road, and there's a whole corner of the shed, you don't see what's in that area, but you learn to work around that, and but no, they're a big, big benefit. I don't know so much in the last 10 years, I would say in the last 30 to 40 years there's been big changes. I reckon the biggest improvement that came to our type of farming was pregnancy scanning. And when that was introduced, it allowed us then to separate singles and twins. The twins we can keep in the fields or in the hill parks after scanning time, feed them accordingly, so the twins are getting fed at the right level. While prior to that, you were feeding some sheep out and some were getting overfed and others were getting underfed. So the nutrition, getting that right has been a big, big difference. So I think scanning was probably the biggest breakthrough. The next biggest breakthrough on my assessment, and not many farmers have taken it up, unfortunately, in the Blackie breed, was genetic recording the lambs, lamb weights, lamb birth rates, who the parent is, who the father is, and getting that all run through the Signet programs, which gives you EBVs for all the different traits that you want, and you then can pick both your breeding ewes and in our case particularly the stock rams, because all our rams are homebred. I only maybe once every 5 or 6 years will buy in a ram from outside to bring in a fresh bloodline. But we've a big enough variety within the farm that I can breed with my own rams without inbreeding. There are computer program checks that we're not inbreeding anything, and that works well, and that's greatly improved our output from farm. All our lambs now go off the farm fat, or prime I should probably say. When we started doing this in the 80s, before we started genetic recording, the average carcass weight going off the farm was 13.5 kilos. Within 5 years we got that up to 17 kilo carcass weights, and we're now averaging 19.5 kilo carcasses off of Blackies. And my mature ewes are now 5 kilograms lighter than they used to be, so it's a smaller ewe, takes less to maintain, less feeding and that. So that's a big, big improvement. No, I wasn't interested in the breeding of top tops. I'm not interested. I don't sell them in the market. My sheep wouldn't sell in the market because they don't look like a modern black face tup with a black head and the curly tight horns. They're more traditional. They look very similar to what they were looking like 30, 40 years. Because I'm doing a selection on performance, not on looks. So I'm not worried what the head looks like. It's the first thing that comes off in the abattoir, basically. So I mean, I'm looking for performance. I want sheep that look after themselves, don't need any assisted lambing, plenty of milk, they're good mothers, and they produce a good carcass, they've got a good muscle depth. So when we back fat scan them, we're measuring the muscle depth and all that on the lambs, so we know what we're producing. And that's what's important. And it basically means our farm's more efficient, it's producing more than it did. We're producing more lambs now with less ewes. And that, so it's efficiency basically is what we're trying to do. I've always farmed with a mantra that you want to leave the farm better than you took it over. And that's always at the back of my mind. You always want to pass it on to the next generation better than I took it over. And my father was the same view, and I've carried that on. I think that's it. You've got to enjoy what you're doing. You've got to get satisfaction from what you're doing. You get satisfaction of seeing improvements, and whether it's the cattle or sheep, they're always getting better. They're doing better. The weather and the bad weather can upset the year, and you're less lambs that year than the year before. But as a whole, the lambs are getting better and better. The ewe flocks getting better and better, and always very important to improve and keep the soil right and technically we're grass farmers. For all we're farming sheep cattle, but we're farming grass. That's the feed. So we've got to make sure that the fields are right, get the pHs right, and get the fertility right, so that the fields are producing as best they can. Get as much experience as you can. I would advise anyone, if they're particularly a farmer, if they were going to come and work at home, don't go home and immediately go and work for somebody else. Even go abroad if you possibly can. The experience you'll gain and ideas you'll bring back, it'll open your mind, and you'll farm totally differently once you come back, because your mind just open, you'll look for other ways of doing things, because the way you've always done it is not necessarily the best way. It might be, but there's always room for improvement. I went away for 3 years to agricultural college and did an HND down at Auchincruive. So I was away that, and part of that course you had to go and work for 6 months on another farm, not your own farm. So I did that in a farm in Northumberland. I then was lucky enough to win a young farmer's exchange trip to New Zealand for 6 months. So for all I wasn't working, but I stayed with about 15 different farmers in all areas of New Zealand, and you spent a fortnight with them. So you worked voluntarily with them, whatever they were doing, and then they would show you the sites, and you did the touristy things. And all the young farmers, the socialising and all that was good. But you did learn an awful lot. And when I came back home, you couldn't put it all into perspective. It took me a couple of years once I was back home to start to realise what I was doing, and we started changing things. And a lot of the management we do in the farm, a lot of the way we built the sheep yards and the handling setups were all from ideas that I'd gradually picked up out in New Zealand or in other farms. And it took about 2 years to get it into perspective and sort of change a New Zealand system to work in a Scottish land system. But we did quite a bit of that at that time. And I would say the main thing is they'll realise very quickly how much better their stock is than they think it is. But you'll very quickly be able to identify the sheep that don't perform. Now you've got to be, I wouldn't say ruthless is maybe not the right word, but you've got to follow the figures. That sheep that's been a great looking sheep hasn't maybe performed that well when you look at the figures, so get rid of it. You've got to be hard and keep the ones that perform. They might not look pretty, they might not look nice, but they'll produce a lamb every year, and they'll end up being the biggest lamb out the batch. It might be the weest yow, but maybe the milkiest. There are a lot of things you don't know. You don't know whether a ewe is going to be good. Is it going to lamb itself, or you're going to have to help a third of the sheep to lamb? We can lamb 1,000 odd ewes. If we have to assist 20 sheep in total, we've had a bad year. I mean, that's the sort of level that we're at. We virtually don't need to assist any. The only one you ever really get is 2 lambs coming together, and you've got to sort that out, and that's about the only one we ever get stuck with. Right, if I've got any advice for anyone wanting to get into farming, I think the best thing to do is go and work for somebody else, go and get as much experience as you possibly can, and if you possibly can get abroad to work, so much the better. And if you want advice to start recording, is you've got to start somewhere and pick the best. You don't record everything, all the flock, it's too much work. Pick the best ones to start with, and at the end of the first year you realise half of them aren't as good as you thought. Get rid of them and pick another batch, and by year 3 you'll be able to pick on the results and pick the best ones out from that and work with that and be ruthless.